Welcome to Dead by Daylight. Years after the tragedy, witness the horrors that... Wait, this isn't Dead by Daylight? This is Minecraft! Hello guys, it's just Omen here, or you can call me Omen. As a frequent player of both Dead by Daylight and the Five Nights at Freddy's series, you can probably already guess that I'm pretty excited about the upcoming chapter. And with us getting more information next week at PAX East, I wondered what the map would look like if we were to get one. So I did what any sane person would do, and I spent the last 2 weeks building what I think the first 3 games would look like if they were to be Dead by Daylight maps, using Minecraft. Yeah, I'm totally not crazy. Now, before we get started, the Five Nights at Freddy's games are already pretty difficult to adaptate into a Dead by Daylight styled map, taking into account that the cameras in FNAF 1 only really show us what we need to see, which is obviously what Scott intended for gameplay purposes, but doesn't really help when adaptating it for a bigger game like Dead by Daylight. So I really hope that Scott does the vision right with behavior if we do get a map. So I started with FNAF 1, trying to keep the layout the same, but also taking some liberties and making some changes to it, trying to give it that Dead by Daylight flair. I opened up some walls, closed off some rooms, and threw in an Easter egg here and there. Now with the layout, I kinda wanted to take some inspiration from the Auto-Haven maps, while still trying to let the map have its own vibe, also trying to make the map fair for both sides, mostly trying to take the vibe from the FNAF 1 aesthetic and atmosphere it gave off. I included some of your decent loops, your typical loops that we see in game, giving it its own FNAF flair on top of it. I added Shack, giving it its Auto-Haven-y FNAF aesthetic while trying to make it look natural in the map setting. Now, while yes, the generator spots in the game would be randomized, I figured putting them in a set place would show a good spot as to where they could spawn. The gens in this, I tried to make them relatively spaced out. Obviously, there being 7 in the game, but the spacing feels natural here. It feels like it would be an actual map in my opinion, so I was relatively happy with it. Now, I didn't really think of any spots for hexes or hooks, but I did think of spots for the basement. Obviously, there would be one in Shack, but the other one would be in main building in the safe room with Springtrap. I think these are relatively balanced and they're spaced out relatively evenly. The Shack being pretty close to main building, yes. However, the basement in main building is kind of already blocked, and you'd actually have to go around to the bathroom wall that's broken in and head to the safe room to the basement. Now, I feel like this map is balanced in almost every aspect. I do feel like the map could be expanded and stretched out in the top left and the bottom right segments of the map. However, you guys let me know what you guys think in the comments down below, and that'll do it for FNAF 1. Now, moving on to FNAF 2, I wanted to give it a more indoor map feeling, give it some outdoor aspects like Raccoon Police Department, since it's one of my favorite maps. Not everyone agrees with that factor, but unlike RPD with its small roof section, I wanted to give it a full roof section with your typical loops, a loop from the Ormond Yamamoka loop. But when I was building this map, I ran into a bit of a dilemma that I ran into with the first map that I wanted to fix. There's barely any spots to actually use balanced landing, and around the time that I was building it, I got a recommendation from a friend to add a hole in the roof, which I thought fit the Dead by Daylight aesthetic so well, and my god, does it look beautiful. I think this looks amazing. Anyway, going back down to the first floor, I tried to keep all the rooms accurate to the game, since as the games progressed, we started seeing less and less of its boundaries and more just darker and darker and in the areas around us. So I took some creative liberties, like giving Kids Cove some more life, same with some of the party rooms, while also trying to keep the DBD style. The alleyways helped give off the RPD vibe, and I really liked it. Now, this one I also tried to keep balance for both sides while not making it too big of an indoor map, because everyone hates the big indoor maps, me included. Now, the second problem, other than balanced landing for me, was the exit gates. Trying to figure out where to put them and have them connect back to the map, or to a room even more or less was difficult for me. I didn't know whether or not to put it in the second back alley by parts and service, or I didn't know whether to just make a hole in the wall like I did with this one and connect it there. But I made a bigger change, and that was connecting it like RPD does on the outside front part where the generator is. It connects the left side of the map to the front exit gate, making it easier for survivors to exit out via that exit gate. So I figured, why not just connect the back alley to the left alley? That way it would also make a easier loop, and it would make it a lot easier to get out through that exit gate rather than having to go in and go through, making it a lot more balanced on both sides. Now, there is also the right alleyway that's connected to the bathroom and the parts and service, which also goes up to the roof. This is a big RPD kind of ripoff, I'd say. It's where I took a lot of the inspiration for this alleyway. It is a very easily infinite loop. It is a lot easier to infinite it if you go through the roof, however, because if you're going to go through the hallway from parts and service to the bathroom, it will make a lot of room for the killer to actually catch up and obviously kill you. But I figured this alleyway was probably one of the more detrimental parts of this map. Now, before we move on to FNAF 3, I do want to address one big problem with the FNAF 2 map, that the front parking lot felt a lot smaller than the first map. I did contemplate making it bigger to the right side, but I felt like a lot of the inside and back parts of the map made up for that room. So I decided against it. You guys let me know what you guys think in the comments, but other than that, that is all for FNAF 2. Alright, now we move on to the third and final one, FNAF 3. Now with FNAF 3, I really struggled with its layout, not wanting to make it too similar to FNAF 1, but also not wanting to make it too big. In case you couldn't tell by now, I really don't like the big maps of Dead by Daylight, Autohaven. Anyways, I feel like it fixed all of its parts where the map was too small in certain locations, but also too big. That's where the loops from the church and asylum maps, which I felt fit the map perfectly, come in. These ones create availability for the survivors to have infinite loops on those walls, but also have the ability to drop that pallet if they need to. And there is a lot of open areas to gain distance, like the back part of the map. There is like simple loops from, that took inspiration from the old Haddonfield. There's a lot of old Haddonfield loops in here that I just kind of twisted on its head and made a FNAF version of. I feel like some of the old Haddonfield loops were also really nice, but also trying to keep it that dark and horrifying little aesthetic that goes along well with the horror attraction of Fazbear Frights. Now we move on to a very big part that FNAF 2's map was missing, a shack. I feel like Badham's shack fit this map very aesthetically because the bricky part that the outside walls take fit it more than Autohaven's little shack that FNAF 1's map has. The inside, however, I did put a little bit more effort than FNAF 1's, trying to give it more of an office-y look to fit the aesthetic of FNAF, which I didn't really think about much when making the first map. But I feel like the desk and the boxes and just the tiles on the floor instead of the regular shack floor fitted a lot more than your atypical shack, which I really feel like brings the aesthetic of this map all together on top of the forest, which I really took inspiration from most North American forest in the US, which mainly takes place in Utah, which is where most of FNAF is theorized to take place. So I just kind of took that and put it here. And I feel like it really helps with all of the bushes and everything around the map that helps really bring it all together. But one of the biggest things that really helps bring this map together is its main building. I feel like it was perfected in all of its ways. I did have to enlarge some rooms, but there's not much going on the inside. I broke a wall in here, I kind of put a pallet in the arcade room, but other than that, there's not much to do with the main building. Now, in main building, I only put one vault because I didn't really want to make the map very vault heavy like some other maps. FNAF 2 is a big example of being vault heavy. However, this one, I only did very few, so including some like the TNL walls, a jungle gym or two that had a window, but that is all the windows that you see. You don't see very many. This map was very pallet heavy. I'm pretty sure I robbed Home Depot. Well, shit. But I feel like these maps are all really good in their own aspect. I think I've perfected almost all of them. If you guys would disagree in the comments, feel free to let me know down there. Don't be too mean though. I might cry. I'm joking. But there is one more that I have not finished. It will be a security breach themed map coming out sometime around next month, around the chapter's official release. That is to be seen. But you guys let me know if you guys did enjoy. I would like to make more map concepts like this one. I do want to make an all-kill map at some point. Since it's been like a year, or I think it's actually been closer to 4. That's kind of... that's to be seen. I do want to make one though, because I really am excited for that map when it does get announced or revealed or whatever. But I do want to make a security breach one, like I said earlier. That'll be sometime next month, either before or after the chapter's release. We'll have to see. But I hope you guys did enjoy, and y'all have a good night, and goodbye.